Hey, everybody.
Welcome to Beach Theory.
We're back.
We are back and better than ever.
It always feels good to talk with you, to just sit and talk with you.
Thank you.
I don't think people understand just how much I enjoy being with Michael.
Oh, people don't
I do.
understand how much I enjoy being around you.
And I think at one point in my life, I felt it was hard to have you home all the time just because I had my own routine and things
Right.
like that. But no, I thoroughly enjoy spending time with you, and I want to be around you all the time.
Thank you.
It's just fun, and I miss you when you're not around.
That means a lot to me.
Good.
I think that you are my best friend.
You're my best friend, too.
And whenever I'm around other people, I'm always like, man, I'd rather be around Rebecca. She's way cooler.
Where's my best friend?
So what's going on? What are we going to talk about today? You know what we're talking about today?
No, I don't actually.
You're just like, I'm just here. Tell
Michael's
me
like, we need to film some podcasts. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? What are we talking about?
I actually have a big list on my phone. I'm going to grab it.
You don't even know what we're going to be talking about. Please keep listening, even though we are very
forgot.
unprofessional.
I forgot. Here, let me pull it up right quick.
You know what? I'm going to share a thought.
Found it.
Oh.
Go ahead and share your thought, though.
I
like your
think
thoughts.
this is a little sensitive, but it's something I was just thinking about.
Uh-oh.
I love my family so much, like my extended family. I love my brothers and sisters so much, and it's getting to a point where we're all leading our own lives and doing things outside of, the home we grew up in,
Right.
all together. And I just was thinking about how communication is so key and so important
Yeah.
in relationships. And I was like, I really need to tell them they don't need to prove themselves to the family. Like, if anybody's feeling left out, if anybody's feeling... I was thinking about my mom and going to my grandma's house when we were kids. And I remember my mom feeling ultra self-conscious
Uh-huh.
and worried. And I remember feeling worried at my grandma's house myself because of her worry.
If my mom's worried, maybe I should be worried.
Why do I need... Oh, I'm nervous. And I
Mhm.
remember seeing pictures of my cousins being at my grandma's house and thinking, why are they so relaxed? Like, shouldn't they be a little bit nervous? And as I've thought about it, I realized I think she was just worried about making sure all of us kids were behaving the way she wanted us to. But she had 9 kids, and that's so hard. And I was just thinking, I want to create an environment where we all can feel safe at our house, where all of my siblings and all of our extended family can feel safe here.
Yeah.
And not feel judged, not feel
That makes sense.
uncomfortable or like they have to act a certain way because maybe we have a big house or because we have more money or, I just don't want them to feel less than.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in order to help them not feel that way, I would have to say exactly what I just said to them.
Right.
Because communication is so important. I guess what I have been thinking about is a lot of the time we all have good intent, but we don't say what our intentions are. We just do what we think is going to get the result that we want, but we don't tell anybody even what result we want,
Mm-hmm.
So it just makes things
So they question your motives.
They question our motives, and
Right.
it just gets confusing. Like last night with the dishes, I was thinking, why isn't James appreciating me helping him with the dishes? This is really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't he showing appreciation? Or why is he grumbling even though I'm helping because he was having such a hard time?
You need to put some backstory.
Oh, yeah. So he was...
Kids do the
Go
jobs
ahead.
around the house.
Yeah.
And for months and months, the dishes has been James's responsibility.
And he really struggles
And
with it.
he hates it. Like, he's violently opposed to it. And I think it teaches him how to work. And I think it teaches him responsibility and discipline. And anyway,
And I've been thinking,
the other day he was throwing a tantrum about it. And that's when you stepped in and said, okay, we're all going to help you with the dishes.
we're all going to work on dishes. Dishes, I feel like, are overwhelming. We've never even had a handle on it, even before we had kids to help us with it.
I might have had hand.
Nope, we've never, ever had,
How about
like,
you?
a clean... I cook! You better be grateful you get some food! Anyways, I was like, okay, I think once and for all, we just need everybody to help it with it. Get it done. It's one of those things we've never been able to conquer. We've got to try something new. So I was like, I'm going to help with the dishes, and I'm going to have the other kids help too until it's just done. Which, for the past so this is like the third time we've done that, and the past 2 times it's worked really well, but then yesterday it was grumbling, and why do I have to do the dishes? I always have to do the dishes. And I was like, James, we're all helping. I'm making a good effort.
Yeah, you were washing. Corbin was rinsing.
And
And James was just putting away, but he was moving at a snail's pace.
And he was just so frustrated that he had to do the dishes at all. And I was like, I don't get this. Like, why aren't you grateful? We're helping, we're all helping. We're all doing our part, and you should be grateful and not be so upset that you still have to do the dishes, because it's so much easier than it was before. Anyways, afterwards, I went and got in the shower, and I was sitting there thinking, and I realized maybe I just need to sit down with him and be like, James, I'm trying to help you. I just care. I just want you to be happy. And at the same time, I can't take all your pain away. I can't take all the hard things in life away from you, because that's part of life. You have to learn these things, But I was like, oh, maybe I should and this might not change it, but I think clarifying why we do things is important. Just like I wanted to say to him, and I haven't yet, but, I care about you and I love you. And as you were crying, I had compassion, and so I decided I wanted to help with doing the dishes, because I want your life to be better. I don't want you to hate your life. I don't want you to hate doing daily monotonous chores, even though everybody does. I just want to help. I just want to help.
And I've had that exact conversation with James but my argument is exactly the same as yours. I want to help you. That's why I'm teaching you the value of hard work, because I care. Because he thinks in his mind, he's like, you make me do hard things, you must not love me. I'm like, dude, it's the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I make you do hard things because I love you, and because I care about you, and I want you to be able to accomplish anything in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And if I never teach you how to work and how to accomplish things,
and we've told him that. We've had that conversation a lot of
if I
you don't
didn't
understand.
If I didn't care, I would just let him watch TV all day, and I wouldn't make him do any work or any school or learn anything, and I would just let him play all the time, and he'd grow up to be this entitled, spoiled person that doesn't know how to do anything.
Yeah. And we've talked about that. I've said, I had roommates at college, or people that I knew that didn't have, not any of my roommates, but people at college that I knew that were like, I've never washed a dish in my life, or I've never done laundry. I don't know how.
There are college students that don't know how to cook. They only know cereal or
I would
sandwiches.
actually say most don't know how to cook.
Because their parents never make them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not doing their children any service by taking away that life lesson.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that's our way of parenting, is saying, no, these are things you need to learn.
This is not what I was planning on talking about today.
Well,
but maybe it's a good lesson, a good thing to talk about.
It is. And that was the other thing. I was like, well, I think the other thing I need to do, other than letting James know my intentions with what I'm doing, because I think knowing the intentions helps you understand a person.
Mm-hmm.
But other than knowing the intentions, I was like, I think I need to set some ground rules if we're going to be helping him. And that is, you can't grumble. You can't complain, because you're getting the help you weren't getting before. And it can be taken away and you can have the job all to yourself again. Like, this is something he needs to be grateful for and thankful for. So if he complains, and I don't like in the moment taking things out all the time necessarily. Like I want to have this conversation when we're not in the middle of doing dishes.
Of course.
So that he can like have time to have it settle, and he'll know like he needs to ask for help from everybody. Please, everybody, help me do the dishes. You know,
he does the dishes better when you're not around. I'm not kidding. Like, there was a time not too long ago, I can't remember you. Oh, it was when you were at the girls' night. You went to go stay the night at your sister's house just like 2 weeks ago, or a week ago. And the dishes were piled up high. There was a mountain of dirty dishes. And I was like, James, you're going to do the dishes. Because that's always my stance. Like, this is your responsibility. I expect you to do it, period. And I think that as long as I'm consistent in that, then he obeys. And he didn't want to do it, but he didn't throw his typical fits. He didn't scream and cry. He did the dishes, and he was hungry because he'd been playing all day, not doing the dishes. And I'm like, okay, you can't participate in this unless you do your responsibility. You can't have dinner until you're done with the dishes. And he wasn't starving, but he was like, oh, I'm hungry. And I'm like, finish the dishes and you can have as much food as you want. And he did. He finished all of the dishes, even the pots and pans. He did a great job. He didn't scream and cry. I didn't have to stand over him and make him do it. He just did it because he wanted food, and it worked.
Something I feel like I've noticed with our children is if they have multiple adults around, they will work horribly because they'll say, well, Mom said this, or, well, Dad said this, well, Ryan said this, and they won't do anything. But if there's one adult, just one, it's like they have no choice but to just listen to that one adult, and then they'll do that. But it's like they work adults' opinions against each other all the time. Well, this person said this.
They are justified in that, though, because they do get conflicting directions from different adults.
I know, and that's why I'm like, it's good when there's just one specific direction, and no one else can argue it, you know.
You want to know where I learned this method of parenting?
From your parents?
Yeah.
Mine too.
When I was a kid.
That's why I don't judge him so harshly, because I'm like, I did that thing.
As far back as I can remember, into my childhood, and like you've seen from the podcast, I can't remember very far back, but as far back as I can remember, around the age of 7 or 8, I started having chores around the house that were my responsibility to clean this. I remember being 8 years old. Specifically, I remember when just right around the time I turned 8, I remember throwing an absolute tantrum because I was being made to vacuum and I didn't want to. There's pictures of me doing the dishes with my siblings and my little brother. It's me and my brother Matthew and Marshall and Johnny, all 4 of us boys, and I was the oldest. But there's a picture of all 4 of us boys when I was probably 9 or 10 maybe, all the way down to Johnny, who was in a diaper. We were all doing the dishes together.
Didn't your mom say, oh, that was set up, it wasn't real?
I remember doing the dishes like that. Where one would wash, one would rinse, and one would stack. I remember doing that.
Yeah.
And that was just the beginning. Like, all through my teenage years, the entire cleaning of the house was the kids' responsibility. Mom didn't have a job. Dad never cleaned the house. Period. It just did not happen.
That's not like my house growing up.
Right? But I now know how to clean up after myself. I take responsibility for my things. And I think that's a good habit. I think that's a good lesson to learn. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's healthy.
I think my mom, she would do as much as she could. She always...
Too much.
You know...
I've seen how much your mom does.
Oh, I agree. But I think I take on what she's done too. Like I do it the way that she did it because I learned from her, right?
Right.
And I think I understand the reason.
That's why I don't judge you too harshly.
Good. And you shouldn't judge my mom too harshly either, because she's just doing what her mom did, and her mom's just doing what her mom did.
And I'm just doing what my parents did.
But and honestly, I don't see any like, this is better, like this way's better than this. My family's better than your family.
I think my family's better.
Wow. Anyways, I see good in both ways. You know?
Well, I think your mom is a saint. She's amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
But I think that what my mom did,
I don't know how she would even feel of us talking about her
I don't
like
either.
this right now. She's
we
gonna
weren't
talk to
planning
me
on
later.
talking about this. But I think that what my mom did for us in teaching us is so much more valuable than if she had just done it for us, done all the work, cleaned the house, and we never learned that responsibility of cleaning.
I think what my mom did, which both of our moms have done actually, is teach the older kids how to do stuff
yeah, and
really
then
well.
it gets harder to teach as the
And then once
Right.
the younger kids come around, it's a lot harder to teach them, especially when you already have older kids that know how to do it.
we're like, well, why would I ask this
'Cause-
younger kid to do it when the older kid knows how to do it? They're
And
just going to do it
it's
forever
way
now.
more work to teach the younger kids how to do it, especially
just-
because the younger kids
It-
tend to get away with a little bit more.
It's not more work to teach the younger kids. It's just a lot of work, period. And once you've put in that work to teach the older kids,
You don't want to do it again.
you're
But
tired.
that applies. And what's interesting is both of us come from families with 9 kids.
Right.
And I would say that applies to like 90% of the things.
Of anything.
Like, I think the older kids just got disciplined more. But I think even in our family, with our kids, that's the same way too.
Sure.
Just because there are guinea pigs, which is sad. But then the younger kids kind of just, they get away with more. And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying they're spoiled. What I am saying, though, is that parents get tired and realize their priorities of what's important and what's not. And they
Right.
let go of the things that they feel are not important.
That is true, but also the younger kids have a role model that they can follow. And if you've disciplined the older kids properly and they're obedient in the areas that matter, then the younger kids will typically just follow suit versus the older kids that have no role model. And so they're kind of
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know what's acceptable and what's not. And so you have to like get them on the right path so that they can now, that's the new culture for the family.
Yeah. You know, when you make a YouTube video and you are like, I wonder what people's opinions are going to be on circumcision or whatever, something like super controversial. That's how I feel like with what we're talking about right now. I feel like every person that's listening probably has a very opinionated stance.
They're
on
allowed.
it.
Anybody can have any opinion they want. But the point is, this is beach theory. This is our opinion. This is our lessons
Yeah.
learned. And you can take it or leave it, but this is what we believe. And
Yeah,
this is what we
this
feel,
is how
whether you like
we're-
it or not.
This is how we're navigating life right now. So
And honestly, I think that there's value in this method.
yeah.
I think that kids
Well, of course,
don't like
you
it.
do the things you do
I
because you think you're right.
I can honestly say I hated it as a kid. Like, I was not happy that I had to wash the dishes and clean the garage and clean the yard. Like, I had to clean up other kids' messes that weren't my messes, right? I hated it. But looking back now as an adult, I can honestly say I learned a lot, and that lesson is valuable, and I appreciate that lesson.
You know why? Because the lesson you learned is how to make other people do it now.
No.
You don't do it now.
No, because think about how hard we work on our projects. You know, think about how like for me to do this hard thing, it's like, no, I can do that because
I think James would feel the exact same way. At any given point, he would love to do things that make him money. He loves feeling
did
that
I.
productive.
Yeah.
He loves feeling that what he's doing is actually getting something back. Like as soon as he does it, basically, like lemonade stand, he would do that any day.
Oh, yeah.
But he hates the monotonous day-to-day chores that someday he's gonna make sure his kids do, and he never has to touch again, just like you.
and he'll be like, Dad, high five. Thanks for
You're
teaching
such
me
a great dad.
such good work.
If he heard that, he'd be like, "Ah!"
And I keep telling him, dude, you're gonna appreciate this one day. Like when you're all
Yeah,
grown up.
because he's gonna
you're
learn
gonna
how
thank
not
me.
to do it. Then he's gonna push it on
That's
everyone
not
else.
why. I'm serious. That is not why. I'm not like kids do the jobs because I don't want to do it and now you're my slaves. That's
But
not why.
wait, is it? I think I've heard you say that word for
No.
word.
No, it's because I want them to learn
Under
the
the
value.
bus.
It's because I love them and I want them to learn the value of hard work and how to work hard. Like
Good
we all-
answer.
we all have responsibilities as a member of this family, right? So we have to film videos. Everybody
Yeah.
participates. I have to make sure they get edited. I have to make sure they get uploaded. I do all the business, everything. Do you do that? Do the kids do that? No.
No. Everybody has their responsibilities.
Exactly.
I agree with that. I agree
And I
with
think
that.
that's fair.
However, this is where we differ. Are we having a fight in front of people?
Tell me where we differ. I'm curious.
Well, I feel like too much is left up to them to figure out sometimes, where because you had to figure it out.
What do you mean?
Like, figure out how to clean the yard, like go
I'm-
clean the yard or go do the dishes. But we think we only have to teach the kids how to do something one time and they should remember it, but they don't. It takes like 5 times
Trust me, I
or
know.
like 20 times
Okay.
of telling them over and over and over and over. And I feel like that is where I come in and start teaching them still the same thing over and over again, where you have very little patience for that type of thing. Because you're like, I've already told you how to do this.
Okay, I don't understand how we differ.
So that's how I guess I think it's all right to go in and reteach and have them do the same thing over again, and I have patience for that, and I don't think you have patience for that. That's where we differ.
Well, what you say is you call it reteaching. What I see you reteaching, and I say you're just doing it for them. Because I know for a fact, because I've seen them do it many times successfully, that they know how to do this thing.
And because you did that to your mom.
Kids,
And I did that to my mom.
kids, and I'm saying this from personal experience. I did it myself very knowingly, and I've seen my kids do it, and I know they're smarter than that. They manipulate. That's like
Absolutely.
it just comes naturally. And maybe it's not every kid. Maybe it's just they got it from genetics from me, because I would whine and I would complain and I would argue to death, and I would wear down my mom until she gave in to whatever it was that I didn't want to do, or whatever it is I did want to do. Like, I remember intentionally knowing if I say this enough, she'll give in to me.
She's listening right now.
I know
She's going to call you and you're going to get a spanking over the phone. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I think a conclusion that we've come to in the past that we completely always forget and then come back to is that there's value in both of us having differing opinions.
Oh, for sure.
With disciplining
Absolutely.
and with taking care of the kids.
Totally.
Because I mean,
It's good that we have a good cop, bad cop situation, because
Yeah.
sometimes the kids need a good cop that they can cry there. Like, yes, the kids might
there's
manipulate,
times where
right?
you're a good cop too.
Right, but I guess that what I'm trying to say is it's good for them to have discipline and like strict parent, but it's also good for them to have a parent that they can just cry to.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they
And
can't
have
cry to
fun
me,
with.
because they can when their jobs are done. Like, I just don't have a lot of sympathy. Maybe I need to have more, but it's still good for them to be able to be like, this is really hard,
Yeah.
just to be able to have someone that they can complain to let it out,
Mhm.
because it is hard.
Well, I think it's.
I know it's hard.
Yeah, and I think to tell your kids, stop crying. You shouldn't feel this
I
way.
never tell them to stop crying or that they shouldn't feel this way. Make sure you don't
No,
make it
I'm
sound
not.
like I'm saying that.
I was thinking of somebody else. a
Okay, well,
different
I don't
parent.
say that.
Well, I'm not saying you say that.
Be
But-
careful.
But I do think it's important that kids should have the ability to express themselves and
I
say
agree.
whatever they're feeling, even if it doesn't. You don't agree with it as their parent, So that's why I feel like it's okay if they're crying. It's okay if they're sad.
It is okay if they're crying, and it's okay if they're sad, because it is a hard lesson. Even now, like, we're going through hard times, and I like
Yeah.
to complain and whine. It doesn't mean I expect anybody to do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I just need to vent, and
Yeah.
kids need to vent,
I
and
think our
I let
kids
them
need
vent.
to know that we do that too. That it's part of life, that we need to be able to express that feeling and go through it.
Mhm.
And I mean, can you guys tell that of all the things we get along with, this might be the hardest thing we've ever disagreed on? Like, the biggest disagreement we've ever had is probably just discipline and children and how to parent. That's our thing.
I think it's because we both care so much.
Yeah.
If I didn't care, I'd be like, you can deal with it. I don't really care. But I care so much.
Yeah.
I'm so, like, passionate
Mm-hmm.
about how my kids are raised because I care about them.
Yeah. It's
Otherwise,
intentions, right?
yeah.
What are our intentions? And I think sometimes our kids need to know that you know, it goes back to the dishes and James thing. Like they just need to know what our intentions truly are, so that they know we're not in it to make their life miserable, but that we love them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if we love them, then we want them to learn things that are important that maybe we didn't learn, or that we've seen other people struggle from not knowing.
Right.
So, also, I think it's good for each of us, me and you, to know that about each other. Like, because I think sometimes when we're in the heat of trying to figure it all out, we might not realize, I'm just trying to do what's right for them. We both just love them. We just want to do what's right for them. We want them to turn out good. We can agree on that 100%. You know, we want them to turn out into good human beings, and we know it's most of it is riding on us, and that's a lot of pressure as a parent, you know? Like, people don't talk about that a lot, about how, you know, babysitting is not the same as being a parent. Babysitting is keeping a kid alive.
I know. Sometimes you'll be like, I'm going to the store, and I'm home with the kids, and the kids are like, is Dad babysitting? And I'm like,
I'm not
I'm
your
not
babysitter.
babysitting. I'm the parent.
They say that to me too. Who's babysitting? Are you babysitting us, Mom? I'm like, no, I'm your mom.
It's
I
not
don't babysit
babysitting
you.
when it's your own kids.
But they've heard that term so
I think
often.
that's just the term that they use with taking care of
Who's
us.
caring for me?
Who's
Mommy?
babysitting? Goodness. I wish we could watch the show Super Nanny together.
Oh, I think that would be a
We
great
used to watch
idea.
that when I was a teenager. I remember watching Super Nanny and taking mental notes and being like, she's amazing.
I remember thinking that I did that too. When I was a teenager, I watched Super Nanny, but I remember thinking about Shinaway because she was the youngest, and I was like, what would I do with her? How would I parent? But also, I was a babysitter for a lot of people. Like, I would babysit.
I babysat my siblings
No,
all
like,
the time.
it's not a competition.
I'm not saying it is a competition. I'm just saying I also
Okay.
did. You're the one who thought it was a
I was
competition.
like, wait, why are you saying that? I thought you were. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But I would babysit for people like in our church a lot of different families and stuff. And I remember applying some things that I learned from Super Nanny to that.
To your babysitting?
What are you doing?
Sorry.
You totally just.
I was listening.
Okay.
You stopped talking. You applied it to babysitting or taking care of
Yes.
Shinaway? Or was you like, Shinaway's
Yeah.
perfect. She doesn't need any
Oh, I
discipline.
love Shinaway. Shinaway is so perfect. She is so sweet.
What do you think?
She's so sweet. And you know what?
She
My
might be a
parents-
sweetle
My
but
parents
she's a
are
baby.
amazing. I just have to say, your
She's a
parents are
grown-up.
amazing, and my parents are amazing.
That's true.
There's nothing, like, other than little opinions here and there, like, I wouldn't condemn any of our parents for anything that they've done, especially because they had so many kids.
They did the best they
and
could
they did.
with
They
where
did.
they were at. and
Absolutely.
Their own, and just like us, I
Yeah.
know that I'm not the perfect dad, but I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm just
And
trying.
And I love that. I absolutely love that. In fact, today I was just thinking,
Uh-oh.
what did I tell you this morning? I was like, Michael, sometimes I want to give you a compliment, but I know you're going to be really prideful about it.
Well, because you want to compliment me on something that
And
I'm
he's
already
like-
I
And he'll
know.
say something like, I know that I'm amazing. Ah, ha, ha, ha. And so, like,
Hey, if
but
it's
then I'm like, you
true-
know what? I'm just going to say it anyway, Michael. You're an amazing dad.
I know.
See what I mean? He's basically like, you know how frustrating it was in Star Wars when she's like, I love you, and he's like, I know. That is Michael to a T.
That's
So-
hilarious.
Forgive me if every now and then I hold back a compliment.
You hold back.
No, I don't
rain.
wanna hold
I
it.
let it rain. The compliments
does.
flow like a
He does.
waterfall
and
out
I
of my
need to
mouth.
let mine too.
Oh, no, you're amazing. You're beautiful. Oh, you're so sweet. You're
You
good.
are so good at that, by the way.
My compliments are unbridled. Because I love you.
I love
but
you too.
Sometimes maybe you need it. I don't know. Maybe you don't need it. You have pretty good self-esteem. It's not like you need the
I
compliments.
love it when you compliment me.
Right.
I love it. There's nothing I would change about you. You're so sweet.
Thank you.
You really are.
But because you never compliment me, I have to compliment myself. And that's why when you do compliment me, I'm like, I already know that. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
But it's like,
So
at the same
funny.
time, like, I know that my methods might be uncommon or unorthodox, but I also know that they come from a place of love and that they also work. I just know that. And so,
Which methods are we talking about? Discipline or
Yeah.
giving compliments or...
like discipline, like
Oh, okay.
with the kids, making sure they have good, like they learn how to work hard and they learn how to read and they learn how
Yeah.
to self-teach, right? Like, because my biggest thing with homeschool is if I can get them to a point where they love learning and they know how to teach themselves, to where they could literally be like, I want to learn about this, and then do it.
Which is something I did not learn until I was an adult.
If I can get my kids to know that, I'm successful as an educator. And if I can get them to learn how to have good relationships, how to communicate well, how to work hard, and how to respect other people, then I feel like I'm a success as a parent. And that's literally, like, everything that I do for them is to meet one of those goals.
Mm-hmm. I have to specify because I know my parents and your parents will listen.
Do your
That-
parents listen? I don't think your parents.
Yep, they do.
Okay.
My mom does. I just want to clarify.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. I just want to clarify that I really do think they did the best that
Yeah.
they could possibly do, and that every kid is going to have an opinion on how their parents parented, and I'm
Totally.
sure they even have opinions on how their parents parented them.
As a kid, I was very vocal to my mom about critiquing her parenting.
Wow.
Even as a teenager, I was like, you're doing this wrong and you're doing this wrong. And when I'm a dad, I'm going to do it like this. and then she would say, when you're a parent, you can do it however you
And
want.
you have.
And I am. But at the same time, like, I see James and he's the same way. He's like, I don't like the way you do this. And then I say, when you're a parent, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So now I'm kind of curious to see what he's going to do.
It's like something that I heard your mom say once that really kind of stuck with me ever since I heard her say it was she was shocked that and I don't know if this is going to reveal anything, I don't know, but she just said that she had baggage from when she grew up, and she tried her very hardest to make sure that none of her kids had baggage like she had growing up. And it really hurt her that she heard that her kids had baggage. And that stuck with me so deeply because I was like, don't we all?
Sure.
Like, even kids in the perfect family have baggage.
Well, how
They
do you...
might have less.
What is baggage?
What is baggage? That's a really good
Is
question.
baggage just pain from a lesson that you learned along the way?
I think
Because
baggage...
you can have baggage from relationships as an adult.
Maybe the reason why the way she was using it was like problems they haven't worked through yet.
Okay.
Like issues that they're still working through, and haven't resolved, unresolved things. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Do I have baggage? I don't even
don't
know. I don't even know.
I don't know.
Maybe there's times where
I think everybody does because no one is perfect.
maybe every now and then I have a moment where I'm like, oh man, yeah, I'm still struggling with this thing, but it's not affecting my day-to-day life to the point where it's like I can't function or it's on my mind. Like even right now I'm like, man, do I even have anything? Like I can't even think of anything off the top of my head because even if I do, it's not affecting me that bad. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Well, it's like things you would go to therapy for. What would you go to therapy for?
Right.
What's baggage to you? What's something that you need to work through? Something that doesn't make sense to you? Something that was unresolved?
Maybe I've just overcome all the things that bothered me when I was younger.
You know what I feel like? I feel like there are so many things that we grow up with and that we go through. And I think, thankfully, our bodies only allow us to go through one or two at a time. Like, if we do have a whole bunch of things that are unresolved, I think naturally we face the thing that is bothering us the most.
Mm-hmm.
And then once that's taken care of and resolved, we move on to the next, you know?
But
at least that's how I do it. I don't know
I
if
think
that's...
some people hide from the hardest things.
That's
run.
true. That is true. And I think it is a learning process, learning how to even go through those and how to work through them, how to heal from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it does come naturally for a lot of people. That's
Mm-hmm.
why there's therapy and why so many people need to go to therapy. But
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, I think my mom is just as good as a therapist.
And I think you're just
me,
as good as a
you
therapist
know.
for me. Like, we talk through things
Yeah, we
to
do.
the point where it's like, okay, I feel better now.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
there's the interesting part is I think we agree on everything except for one thing, and that is parenting, back and forth.
But we at least respect each other
But
on
we agree to
parenting.
disagree, and it is with respect.
Right. So we
It's
might not
not like-
agree. Like, you might not look at me and be like, I agree 100%. That's the
Yeah.
right way. But you can sit back and be like, that's an option. I don't know if I agree with it, but I'm not going to
Well,
take away your authority.
well, that's where it goes back to, I think it's good to have two different kinds of
Views.
views.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that our kids see that all the time. They see that you can have a different view and I can have a different view, but
And
we can still
get
love each
along.
other.
Yeah.
You know? And that's okay.
That's a good thing to learn.
Yeah. Because I think if we agreed on everything all the time, or one of us compromised to do exactly what the other one wants them to, they would feel obligated from the example we set to them. They would have to do it that way.
Well, I remember.
And I don't want them to ever feel like they have to compromise themselves, their own opinions, throw their own opinions away to not have them so that they would agree 100% with someone else, you know? Like, no, it's okay to have a different opinion.
Yeah. Well, this actually makes me want to talk about a totally different subject. But maybe I can summarize this exact idea of agreeing and disagreeing on different things. When I was dating a girl in high school for 2 years, we were really, really serious. But we fought and argued all the time because we didn't agree on most things. And I didn't respect her enough to appreciate her opinions. Maybe I was too prideful that my way was the only right way, and I think it's really fortuitous that you and I do see eye to eye on most things, because it would be a lot more challenging to be in a
Absolutely.
relationship. And that's why it's so important that when you're dating, and this is kind of where I was like, man, we could have a whole conversation about when you're dating somebody, you know, that's the chance you have to look at what are your values, what are their values, what are your ideals, what are their ideals. Because if you don't agree on most things, then there's going to be some really challenging conversations and arguments and disagreements that could pull you apart and take away.
It's like, get the best odds you can get.
Yeah.
You know, dating is a way of finding the best odds for you with being able to stay with somebody for the rest of your life.
I don't even think the way that people look matters, you know, at all relative to how important it is that you agree on things.
And I have the same opinion.
Right. But that's a topic for another conversation. I think we should wrap it up just because this has been a really good podcast.
Yeah.
Super heated.
Surprising.
But-
So surprising
but
that's
super
what we
fun
ended up talking
to
about.
talk about discipline and responsibilities
I
and
like
education.
spending time with you. And you know what? I get a thrill. This is going to sound terrible, but I get a thrill disagreeing with you.
Sometimes.
But it's because I know with our relationship, if we start to disagree, if it gets too much of a barrier between us, we resolve it somehow eventually.
Well, we
Like,
also.
we won't let that become, what is the thing that goes between the tree and cracks the tree
A
in
wedge.
half? It won't be a wedge. Like, we won't let it get to be a wedge to drive us apart.
Right.
If it's a big enough topic that we disagree on, we eventually will come to a compromise that both of us feel very 100% good about. And that's why I get a thrill when we disagree, because I get this twinge of, hope for the future when I know it's going to be resolved. And nothing will get resolved if you don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I get excited when we disagree, because I know it's going to get better from here.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's fight. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I love you. You're so cute.
Also, I think finding humor in any situation you can possibly find with when you're disagreeing, not making fun of the other person specifically, though. Not at someone else's expense, but just finding funniness in whatever situation you're trying to work through is key to not
And not
hurting
sarcasm.
each other. Yeah, not sarcasm.
Never use sarcasm because it's not good for relationships.
You know, when we learned that lesson, I feel like the first time that we truly learned that lesson was when we started working together on YouTube all the time. Because when you're creatively trying to make something
And you're being
outside
vulnerable.
of just our relationship, outside of our parenting, outside of
Right.
everything, and you're being vulnerable, it cuts so deeply if all you get back is sarcastic remarks.
Mm-hmm. I would just say, I mean, at least this is a lesson we've learned in our relationship. Maybe there's some relationships that can do it. I don't know. But one of the big lessons we've learned is just don't have sarcasm in a relationship because it's not good for you.
The first time I ever heard that was from a quote from like Joseph Smith or something. Him saying being sarcastic is like the lowest form of humor or something. And I was like, how rude. I was so upset by that because
That
we
was
were
back when you liked
sarcastic
sarcasm.
all the time. And I really was like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
I don't get that. Because sarcasm for me was an easier way of
Talking about hard
it was
things.
being passive aggressive, right? It was an
Right.
easier way of talking about hard things. And to me, it was helpful to talk like that.
Mhm.
But until we talked like that all the way up until
Go ahead and say what you got to say. I'm
We
ready
did-
to move on though.
it's so rude.
Sorry.
We talked like that all the way up until we had to talk to each other every day, all day, with making big decisions with YouTube. And then all of a sudden being sarcastic wasn't so productive or helpful anymore. It was actually counterproductive.
Right.
And so we were like, I think we sat down and we had a conversation like, I don't like it when you're sarcastic.
And don't be sarcastic with kids. That's not effective either.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. Let's have another conversation about something else.
All right.
Are you done with this one?
I think so.
Okay, good.
Let me think. Just be quiet for a minute and don't interrupt me and let me think if I'm done. Okay, I'm done.
I love you guys. Hey, thank you so much for tuning into Beach Theory. We really love and appreciate you guys' support. Thanks for listening. And let us know if there's any other topics, any controversial topics or subjects that you in your relationships want us to talk about. I think that'd be really, really fun.
I think there's been some conversations we've had that we really like talking about, which is how we fight, how we compromise, how we communicate in our relationship. And honestly, we have such a good relationship.
Thank you.
We really do. We love each other so much, but we also disagree with each other, and we know how to get past the disagreements and move on and compromise for each other.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want to hear more about that, let us know, because I love talking about that.
I think one of the
I
main
feel like
reasons
it's very helpful to other people too.
why we have such a good relationship is we're not afraid to talk about anything.
No fear.
And we both are committed to resolving any problems. Like if there's
Mhm.
something that's bothering you, I care enough to understand it and to resolve it rather than dismiss it.
Because it all goes back to what's our intention. Well, my intention is to love you,
Mm-hmm.
and your intention is to love me. And so are we willing to do what it takes to make it
Even
work?
when it's a difficult conversation.
Mm-hmm. And I think we've both come to the conclusion that yes, we are willing to do what it takes,
Mm-hmm.
because we love each other.
That's right. Thanks, you guys. We love you. Okay, we're wrapping it up. Beach Theory